But anyway, so we discussed the opening and the possibility of adding to the committee.
Sounds good. Excuse me, council, anybody else want to weigh in? If not, we'll call for a motion.
It would be my honor to nominate Ms. McKenna for this position.
A second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Next, we'll talk about Board of Adjustment. I see Lois here. Would you like to come forward and talk to us? Thank you for being my son's great math teacher before you do anything else. That's your most important thing.
You haven't talked to him tonight, right?
I haven't talked to him today yet.
No, it's good. No. I'm Lois DeVoe. I live at 940 East Kelly Road and have been a resident of Woodland Park for 22 years. And one of my reasons for wanting to do this is that I really like this community, and I have never given back or given up my time for the community. I've been involved in many different things, but not something that was involved with the city. You might think also that if you know me, I'm a teacher. I've taught for 30 years, and so I haven't done something like this, except for back in Indiana, John, my husband, and I, we developed a 46-lot subdivision, and we worked with the county on all kinds of things that are involved with utilities and covenants and appraising the houses that were coming in and landscaping and so on. So we have had some dealings I have with that. I've also been involved with many different things, especially in the school districts that I've taught in. I've been president of our teachers union for 7 years and have been involved in negotiations. I've also been part of DAC, which is our district accountability, for 3 years, about 3.5 years. I'm very well aware of ex parte communication and also the quasi-judicial part of what would be on this board. I took the liberty of running off the last 2 years of the agendas and minutes so that I was a little bit familiar with what the Board of Adjustment is and does, and I think that I could be a benefit, especially as an alternate. No. And so that's just a little bit about me and why I would like to be part of doing something to give back to the city.
Well, much appreciated. Don't sell yourself short. What you do for a living every day, there's nothing greater. There's not a greater contribution to our community. So, and I'm well aware because I've had a couple of my kids, like it or not, right?
Oh, no. Yours are the best.
Council, questions for Mr. DeVoe? We're certainly glad to have you here, and your family's provided great leadership for our community for a long time, so we appreciate it. If not, we'll just call for a motion to approve Lois DeVoe as our alternate.
I'd like to make that motion to approve Lois, and you had me right after math teacher. That was enough.
Second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We're going to do the next committee, and then you're going to swear everybody in. Is that correct?
If that's what
perfect.
council desires.
Perfect. Okay, we will move on to the Vehicle Utilization Review Committee. We have 1, 2, 3 applicants that I see with us tonight. So let's take them one at a time. And John, why don't you start for us?
Mayor Levy?
Yes.
Can I just introduce the staff report a little bit, and then I know City Manager Buttery has something to say too.
Let's do that.
Thank you. If council will remember, on January 19th, they adopted Resolution 813, which created the we call VERC committee. It's a lot easier to say that. We advertised it in the manner that council desires, and we've had, as Mayor Levy said, 3 applications. We actually had other applications of people that we had to reject because they did not live in the city. So I think we had a total of 5 applications, but 3 that were applicable to the requirements. We have Mr. Nacarado, we have Mr. Hanlon, and Mr. Carlson, and all of them are here this evening. But we wanted to just talk about Mr. Hanlon, and that's what City Manager Buttery is going to talk about.
The charter states that if you serve on the Board of Adjustment, that you can't serve on any other city board, commission, or city council. This is a committee. So if we follow the letter of the law, then certainly John would be welcome to serve on the Vehicle Utilization Review Committee. What we don't know is the intent, and our city attorney has been unavailable to address that question. So John's been made aware of this. I suspect he would want to serve on both. My suggestion to you tonight, if you find him acceptable, is to appoint him to the Vehicle Utilization Review Committee. And once we have contact with our city attorney, we'll get resolution on that issue, and hopefully he'll be able to serve on both, or he'll be given the option on which one he would choose to serve with. This isn't intended to put John on the spot, but it's to let you know that there is what we think is a minor issue, but one that can be easily overcome once we have a chance to talk to our city attorney in detail.
Thank you.
I guess my question involved in that is this a one-time committee for 1 year or 2 years, or is it just a temporary committee? And maybe that's something we should look at. If it's a temporary committee, maybe he could be on both.
No, I concur. I absolutely agree. And remember, this is sunsetted. It does have a life expectancy. And I agree with you. And so, again, by the letter of the law, it's a committee, not listed here, but we just want to make sure we don't violate the intent of the law. So I would be happy for John to serve on this committee and on the Board of Adjustment, but I don't want it to come into question later that we appointed someone who shouldn't have been appointed. It's really that easy.
Would it be more appropriate to postpone consideration of Mr. Hanlon until the next meeting?
Mayor Pro Tem, I don't think we need to do that. I think if we appoint John, and with the caveat that we would need that resolution, and if he's okay with that, not to put him on the spot, but we could perhaps resolve the issue prior to the next council meeting, and that way we could have our first committee meeting and move forward.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Anything else before we go forward?
That's it, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Scanlon, would you like to I'm sorry, John. Would you like to come forward and plead your case?
Good evening, Council. My name is John Hanlon. I live at 131 Grace Avenue here in Woodland Park. From what I understand, I'm not real certain that the context or the scope of this particular committee that is being formed has yet been established. I would think that that would certainly be one of the first and foremost things that we would need to do, so that our response or the committee's response would be direct specifically to the council in terms of trying to satisfy what their objective is with the committee. In terms of my qualifications or my experiences, without going back more than about 40 years, I have been involved in a number of these types of tasks and studies done for different departments and other municipalities throughout the western United States. For example, my most recent one, although it's just a bit of what I see this committee producing, was a inventory for the Woodland Park Police Department's equipment and their motor pool, everything from the desks to the computers used in the patrol cars to the actual vehicles being used, and helped my daughter, who was originally tasked by it, by the chief to conduct the study. I realized that the vehicle part was pretty straightforward. Identification of mileage, the year of the vehicle, the purchase cost, when can you expect a vehicle to reach its practical lifespan, and when it should be replaced or shifted over to another division for perhaps a less use of that vehicle. And I suspect that would be somewhat of a small area where the Vehicle Utilization Committee would address. Excuse me. The other real experience that I have was back when I was assistant traffic engineer for the city of Pomona in California. And under the traffic department, we had 3 divisions. We had the traffic signal division, we had the streetlight division, and we had the paint and sign shop division. All 3 of which had contracts with neighboring cities to provide those types of maintenances and services. And we then had to go through and do a utilization of those equipments used by each of the 3 different divisions for the purpose, for a number of different reasons. Obviously, from a safety standpoint, on a bucket lifter or a cherry picker, if it met the current requirements, which it didn't. And so we had individuals at the city up in the top of the bucket changing out street lights, and the hydraulics were bad. The new standards for the lift bucket itself and the weight of the truck required the truck to have outriggers. It did not have outriggers on it. So we went through that level of evaluation on all of the vehicles used. And we also went through a pro forma exercise of, could we mesh any of the equipment and vehicles together to help the other different divisions on the work that they were doing. And as it turned out, simply because of the 3 separate contracts that we had with the other cities, we were not able to do that in the sense that any one of the divisions could have an emergency at that particular time, and we could not then pull someone off of the street light department to go help someone on the traffic signal division. So we did go through a very similar type of exercise and trying to evaluate how best we could utilize the equipment and vehicles that we had. So I do have a little bit of experience in doing that. I would certainly like to share my experience with the committee. And like I said, I think the first thing that the committee should do is to bring back a full scope of work for the council to review and look at. And I've been here for, how old's Nina? 27. I've been here in the city for 29 years. I partially worked sometime for the city of Woodland Park. In a utilization study, it's not going to do anybody any good just to look at vehicles, and if you can share them, if you don't know the specific functions of those different divisions, how they operate, when their peak period of operation is, and so on and so forth. So you really have to get down and become intimate, if you will, with the operations of the city, the street department, the water and sewer division, the actual motor pool, and what each of the vehicles are actually being used for. You really have to get down to know them before you can start doing a real utilization study to bring back to you with some recommendations. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John. Questions? John?
When you worked with the Woodland Park Police Department, were you an employee?
No, sir.
You were a contractor? Or
No, sir.
No? Volunteer?
Just volunteer. Actually, my daughter was collecting all of the data, and I was kind of managing how it should be formatted, what particular programs needed to be used and applied to the different data, whether it was, software or radio equipment or vehicles and stuff like that. So it was more of an oversight type thing, just because my daughter was working there.
You were making recommendations to...
No.
No?
No. Our charge was not necessarily to make recommendations. Our charge, from what I understood, was to simply gather all of the data, assimilate it, and put it in a format that could be easily understood, and then allow the police department to make their own decisions and make their own recommendations, as is my impression of what this committee, the Vehicle Utilization Committee, would be to y'all are the decision makers. If the data is presented to you in an understandable way and in a common sense way, y'all should be able to come up with your own recommendations. And I think that's the value of a committee like this, is to bring you up to date, give you an initial snapshot of what everything is, give you some suggestions on what might or might not work, and then put it back into your hands and allow you to make those decisions. You be the boss.
Good. John, thanks very much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Anybody else for John? Val?
As you can imagine, we've been, we've had this subject on our radar for about 4 months now. As the chair, in preparation for getting some candidates for the committee, we've drafted out some basic assumptions and things, but all that will be determined at the first meeting, which hopefully will be very soon, of whoever the committee it turns out to be. So far, there's a few of us, and so yeah, we've done a lot of that work preliminary wise to suggest to the committee, which they will decide how we proceed. And that ultimately, anything we come up with will come to the council for their decision on what they do with that. So a lot of that work you talked about has already been done.
Oh, good. Excellent.
John, I certainly hope the city attorney determines that you are eligible to be on this committee, because you've said two things that I think are very important. One, that the committee needs a mission statement. And then secondly, you've alluded to what are the metrics? How do we determine vehicle utilization? So I am very pleased that you've decided to step up and volunteer for this committee. One of the things I'm keeping my own counsel on is, if after a couple of reports to the council that it doesn't appear there is a direction for this committee, I'll be the first council member to ask that it be dissolved. With your statements, I think there might be a course rudder, and I really appreciate that you stood up to have volunteered to do this. Thank you.
John, I got one more question for you. In the
Yes,
city of Pomona, with the review committee similar to ours, they provided information for city manager, and who made the ultimate decision?
Well, at that time, my report went to the city traffic engineer, to the city. Then he took that report and took it to the city council, and they made the decisions based on a lot of that information. There was a situation where there were actually two vehicles, and there was early on discussion of, well, could we share them between the streetlight division and the traffic signal division? And it turns out that no, you couldn't, just because of the nature of the contracts with the other municipalities that were adjacent to them. But their actions actually recommended the procurement of a new vehicle, of a new cherry picker, and a second one to be determined a couple of 3 years down the road.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. I don't think we have anything else for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
sorry, Paul.
one thing, Val, how many openings are there?
Well, we talked about 3 to 4, so I guess that means
The resolution
4.
says 4.
So there's 4.
Thank you, John.
Certainly.
Okay, next we'll call up Bob Carlson. I see him anxious, ready to come talk to his pals at council.
Well, I'm glad to be back and be of service to the city again, if you accept me. But this has been one of my pet areas of discussion in previous budget hearings and things. But I just wanted to address tonight some of my background experience in this issue. And it's a bit higher level than John, and I'm glad to be working with John because we need to hit it from every direction. But before I retired in 2005, I worked for the Defense Department, and I was on a Tiger team that was involved in base realignment and closure commission, recommending what bases to close and providing all the decision makers all the information they would need on that. But part of that too was coming up with joint basing. We wanted to have common standards, base operation support, so that if you went to the anecdotal evidence was that the Air Force, they always built the club first and the golf course, okay, and their facilities were wonderful and all of their support. The Navy was next on the pecking order, and the poor Army was way down there. Sorry about that, Carol. And so you'd have like a place like Hickam, and you'd have Schofield Barracks nearby, or there's a lot of places where there are joint bases. And so one of the things that I was involved in is standardizing base operations support across all the services, so that you walk on a base, no other, it didn't matter whether Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps, you would have the same look, feel. The garbage would be picked up Mondays and Fridays, and the lawns would be cut every 2 weeks, and all that kind of stuff. And one of the areas was, I mean, it covers all the base operations sports, and one of them was fleet, motor pools, and that sort of thing. So I was involved in coming up with what would be the standard that we'd apply for all 3 services for that particular category. So I do have a bit of background on that, which is out of the norm for being a facilities planner, but it did have impacts on facilities and bases, which was what I was responsible for. So anyway, that gives a little bit more background on where I'm coming from in this particular expertise.
Great, thanks, Bob. We have questions for Bob Carlson?
We're familiar that you're with your experience with Excel spreadsheets, so I guess would be a rhetorical question.
Okay. All right, Bob, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Darwin Nacarado. Welcome back. We've seen a lot of you lately.
Yeah, I hope you don't get too tired of my face. I'm Darwin Nacarado, 14 Craig Court here in Woodland Park. I don't want to bore you with a lot of details of my background. I think everyone fairly well knows it, and I put it in the application, and I don't see, unless you really want me to stand here and try to reiterate what you've already seen in front of me. So if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Appreciate it. John?
Yeah, we know a lot about your background.
Darn.
And it's all good. When you were with Foxmeyer, you talked about being responsible for several hundred vehicles who
Correct.
were all part of the sales force.
Correct.
Was that a motor pool operation or
No, it
individual?
was not. They were all leased vehicles.
Okay.
I changed it to a lease program instead of owning them, and contracted with one of the largest lessors in the country at the time to provide all the vehicles. And then, of course, we had to manage where they were at any point in time, so we knew, you know, you had that large a sales force, you had turnover, so you had to then dispose of the vehicles once the time was up on that as well. And we had the choice of buying them or just returning them. So it was much more financially advisable to buy them if we could, and then sell them ourselves.
You were collecting utilization data?
Absolutely.
On all of those vehicles?
Absolutely. And that was done at a time when Excel was fairly new, and so it was a little difficult. You had large spreadsheets, manual spreadsheets to do it, and then VisiCalc, and then Excel. Yeah, spreadsheets to do that. As you know, I spent a lot of my time as an accountant and a chief financial officer. The financial analysis group reported to me as well, so I actually saw this committee as sort of a way of refreshing my analytical skills, since I do teach that as well.
So do you have the time to serve on
Frankly, this is
kind of committee?
Yeah, this is one reason I like this committee. At this point, with my other obligations, I would love to volunteer for a regular commissioner or board, but I can't do it because I know that they meet on a regular basis. And I never know from one term to the next what nights I'm going to be tied up teaching. So rather than do that, committees such as Community Investment Committee and this Vehicle Utilization Review Committee are ideal for my situation, where we can set the time for the meetings and I understand, I'll know exactly what the commitment is.
Okay, good.
Noel?
Darwin, I was unaware of that part of your background. It's real interesting. Lots of spreadsheets. You captured data. Was the data just for tax purposes? Was it for efficiency of the vehicles or routes?
Yes.
What? Okay. Yes. So
All of
maybe
the
more of an
above.
open-ended question. What? Give me an example of things you changed based on the data you took in.
Well, initially, we made the major change from owned vehicles and an owned vehicle fleet to leasing them. So we did that lease analysis first of all. That was probably the biggest single change that we made. And then for our delivery services, we've been talking about just primarily the sales fleet here for the sales consultants. But we had a huge delivery fleet of step vans and over-the-road tractor trailer rigs and you name it. And one day we were sitting around and I just hit upon the idea that, wait a minute, we've got a lot of vehicles here that are almost always deadheading back to their distribution centers, empty. Of course, that's what deadheading is. And so I thought, why don't we create a new profit center called, at the time, Fox Trucking Company, and we'll be a public transportation company, and we will backhaul people's merchandise in a very secure delivery system because we were delivering pharmaceuticals to wherever they need to go within our trade area. That worked so well that it was one of the most profitable divisions of the company. And then when I created my own company, the Stanford Group, I wasn't going to leave that behind, so I created Stanford Logistics Company as well, a subsidiary of the Stanford Group, and we did pretty much the same thing on a much even larger scale because it was almost all tractor trailer over the road.
Right, so let me go back to the question. You looked at all this data,
Yep.
and based on all the data, what did you come up with? Based on the data, not the fact that the trucks were empty on the way back, but based on the data that you collected.
For one thing, we decided that, honestly, to have salesmen in our territories as widely dispersed as they were, we really needed at that point to have individual vehicles for individual sales consultants. However, we also determined that any of those sales force people who worked out of the distribution center itself could use a motor pool concept for their vehicles, and so we wound up doing both.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Darwin, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Anything else, council, before we have a motion to accept our 3 applicants? This 3 will give us 3. So we have 1 opening, is that correct?
I thought, Carol, you can correct me, that the resolution said up to 4.
Up to 4.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
All right.
So you're fine with 3?
And we can make that determination here if
Yep.
we get another applicant, right?
I'd just like to say I'm very pleased with the capabilities of the applicants, and so I can see where we're gonna have some interesting meetings, Val.
Yeah, I was surprised. Suzanne and I talked about this. Gee whiz, we ought to open this up to the state of Utah and Colorado and everything. But so I was pleased we got good right in town that have some applicable experience.
Okay, then we can have a motion to approve our 3 applicants.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Saunier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thanks very much. Just a reminder to the new members of this committee, what precipitated this was obviously an effort, if possible, to save money for the community. Be very aware that we want to make sure that we're still offering the best possible service to our community when we're investigating this. And my issue has always been, what are you going to show me that is going to make us change our mind about where we're at right now? The beauty of the 3 of you is you have some of that experience, and we're just not going to add vehicles to add vehicles or cut vehicles to cut vehicles, and so we appreciate your participation, and like Carol said, we hope we get something positive out of this. If not, we'll disband the committee and go back to the way we've done things for the last number of years. So thanks very much. Really appreciate the effort, and with John and Val and who else on the council? John and Val. That'll be your 5 to start with.
City manager is also
City manager.
sits. He's a
Non-voting.
Non-voting member. All right, thank you very much. We will move on
Who's swearing in?
to swearing in. That's what we're gonna move on to. Shall they all come up at once?
Yes, that would be great if I can have Lois, you can do this, and everybody can come up. And I'll have you face this way because I know more Lois to do. You guys stand right there. So if I can have you each raise your right hand and state your name. And then repeat after me. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado, the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of member of the various committees upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you. If I can just have you sign your oaths of office and be official.
And Mayor, while they're signing their oaths of office for Councilman Carr and Schaefer, we won't take the time right now to establish the date for the first meeting, but Darwin, Bob, and John, if you're sticking around for the whole meeting, which might not last too much longer, we can decide on when we might do that rather than take time over the next couple of days to send emails back and forth. So if you have the time tonight, stick around, we'll see what we can set up. If you don't, we'll reach out to you via email.
There's a copy for you. Bob, you can start signing yours if you'd like. Bob. Thank you. And Thank you, and Dara? Save some time. Did you sign both, sir? I keep one and you keep one. There you go, this one's yours. Thanks, Lois. Lois, Sally has a present for you already.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, we will move on, and
May we have a hand for the
let's do that.
committee members?
Okay, agenda item 3B, and Mike Perini, welcome.
Mike Perini, 1150 Spruce Ridge Lane. Mr. Mayor, City Council, and community members, as you can clearly see, he is a celebrity. He is home tonight. Moose, come on up here. He was stopped by the Woodland Park Police Department earlier, but I won't go to that too much on that. Sorry, Moose. The theme this year is the Moose Coming Home. It is the 17th year. It was started by Tweed's Fine Furnishings. And last year he was on the campaign trail. This year he's home. And it all started with collaboration with other businesses by Tweed's in 2010. And it's been a successful sales event ever since then. This year we're proud to report that over 35 local businesses have joined the Moose as family, friends, and fans to welcome him home and maybe collect some of those old debts since you've been on the... I wasn't supposed to talk about that either, okay. We have businesses that represent shopping, dining, professional services, lodging, home and spa, recreation, and community. And shoppers have come all the way from South Carolina to see the Moose come home and to enjoy our wonderful town. The campaign started February 11th and it runs through the 26th, and their sales, discounts, drawings, and more are going on throughout our town as we speak. Matter of fact, kids are participating again this year with coloring and essay contests, and we have some young artists out there that are really cool. You can learn more about the Moose through his Facebook page, very popular, and the website. And there's still time to take advantage of this great sale in our community. Again, it ends on the 26th, and you can download this guide that has become a real popular item. I gave city council members and the mayor a copy, and there's some back there. But this has all the great businesses, all of the activities in there. And if we could, Moose, if you don't mind, and Mayor, if it's okay with you, we'd like to take a selfie. This year, the Moose Sighting Selfie Safari is a big thing. We've had over 30-some selfie photos posted on the Facebook page, and people can win prizes and drawings throughout our town. So if you don't mind, Mayor, if we could get a selfie. I know you have a big smile, and he's got big antlers before we go.
Let's do it. Where are you
All
at?
right. Let's do it up here.
That's good. Safe, forget about it. Ah, geez, thanks a lot, Moose. Thank you. All right.
Thanks very much, Mike and Moose. And
Hurry up before it becomes jerky.
Tanner is here, and thank you, Tanner, for this event has always been special in my mind. Just to get 35 other businesses to work together in our community says a lot about who we are and how we do things, and so some of your leadership, Tanner, appreciate it very much. Move on, agenda item number 4, we have no additions, deletions, or corrections that I'm aware of. Move on to the consent calendar, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This evening on the consent calendar, we have the minutes of the regular February 2nd last council meeting, and we also have the approval of the 2017 January statement of expenditures. I do have one minor correction that was brought to my attention for the February 2nd minutes. I had wrote Paul Layton instead of Phil Layton. I just need to make that correction.
Sounds good, council? Val?
I have a couple questions for the treasurer, finance director. I saw a couple entries. They're pretty self-explanatory, but I thought I'd ask anyway. There's an ADG, $5,572. That's an annual maintenance fee, it looks like, for 2017. Wouldn't that have been nice to put that into a different software package? Anyway, that's an editorial comment. The other one I noticed was $4,000 to M&M WebWorks website design. Is that going to be a recurring situation?
It's our website, and no, it's not going to be recurring. We were doing some rebuild, and Steve Harlan was working with Matt Upton from M&M to give us a new look. We've created that, and we're now in the process of refining it and fine-tuning it, so no, it will not be a recurring expense.
I was curious. I went on the website, and I was pretty happy with the old website. The decision to go to the new one was
just to freshen it up some and to perhaps make it easier to navigate through the different departments. We've just found that it had become a bit stale, and we needed to enhance it. It will be easier once we get all the tweaks done. We hired Steve to give us the base, and now all our departments are working on that to reconfigure some of those things so that it just makes it easier to navigate, to find the different components from the municipal government.
so a lot of the content will be migrating as we go along.
We're going to do as many links as we can, those types of things, again, just to make it easier for the community to use.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am?
Well, as long as Val brought it up, I did notice that it had a new look, and I appreciated that, but I also wondered, we're gonna talk about, our moving forward with posting public notices. Where will they be located on the new website?
I'm going to defer to Suzanne.
Thank you, David. As a matter of fact, Chrissy and I worked on that today in preparation for that passing this evening, and there will be a tab that when you hover over on the top, it'll say public notices. You'll click on that, and you can choose from the city council public notices or the planning department public notices.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad we've got someone who knows how to do that.
Yes.
Nice. Anything else, council? Call for motion. Approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Suzanne?
Matthews,
Yes.
Sonier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy.
Yes?
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks, Mike. We'll move on. We have no unfinished business, and we have 2 ordinances on initial posting night, and Mr. Wiley, welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to discuss both ordinances, and then I just ask for a motion each one individually. Ordinance 1301 is amending municipal code of section 1308.15, and ordinance 1302 is amending section 13.27.037. And these 2 ordinances change the annual adjustment. Every April, utility rates are adjusted according to the Consumer Price Index unit, or the CPI. That is based off 75% of that number. Back in 2016, March of 2016, the UAC, after reviewing the Water Tap Management Plan reconciliation, had determined to stay current with inflation, as well as try to keep tap fees at a reasonable cost. It adjustment to adjust rates 100% of the consumer price index instead of the 75%. So these two ordinances would adjust rates every April to the full consumer price index, as well as in ordinance 1301, adjust the capital replacement fee on the water portion of the bill. The water portion of the bill is currently $3.25, and that's been that way ever since it's been established, since 1997. So this would start having the water capital portion be adjusted along with all the other O&M and capital fees. I do want to bring to your attention in the staff report, I will be revising the staff report as it's been brought to my attention that the utility rates as discussed in the staff report are inaccurate, and I will be making those correct. I apologize for that false report.
Nice news. All right, thanks, Skip. Of course, we're just on an ordinance, on initial posting for these two. Ms. Garrett, I know you want to speak on this, but this is not the time. But we'll save you for public comment. The public hearing for this will be set for March 2nd if you'd like to return on that day. In the meantime, council, unless there's no questions, have a motion to approve both one at a time on initial posting, starting with ordinance number 1301.
Move approval as presented with the adjustments you spoke about.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. And ordinance number 1302.
I move to approve on initial posting, but I do have a question. Would it be possible at the next meeting to have an overview of exactly what the CPIU is and how the city uses it, how the state uses it?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Move to approve on first posting.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Soinier.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We'll move on to public hearings and agenda item 8A and Sally Riley.
Mayor?
Sir.
I'd like to recuse myself.
Okay. Do we need a reason? Probably not.
On DDA and a voting member.
Sounds good. Council, any?
Want me to read the-
Walk them around, just a minute or two.
Do you need to read the use of the,
Pardon me?
does the mayor need to read the use of the electronic devices for the public hearing? No.
No, it's not QJ.
QJ, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, you're correct. This is a legislative item, and this is ordinance 1296. This is amending the municipal code concerning the Woodland Station Overlay District geographic boundary to remove the former Amerigas property generally located south of Midland Avenue and Pine Street. This is a 0.9 acre tract, and the requester is Steve Randolph, manager of Beer Garden Lane LLC. So in 2007, the Woodland Station Overlay District boundary was established, and it is shown on this map, outlined in red. It was the former Saddle Club property. Thank you, Chrissy. And then in 2014, the area that is highlighted in yellow was added to the Woodland Station Overlay District with Ordinance 1206. And at that time, the owners of the Amerigas property were working with the DDA to also develop a portion potentially of this area. Now, at this time, the AmeriGas property was shown, is shown in these slides, and the tanks were removed. The area adjacent to the AmeriGas property was begin to be programmed for development. That did not occur. So as a result, the property owners are asking to be removed from the overlay and returned to the original boundary. This basically means that the development of the AmeriGas property will be subject to our existing zoning regulations in the Central Business District and all the standards that are associated with the traditional Central Business District zone, and not subject to the overlay design standards and uses. It also means that if there are conditional uses in the Central Business District, then those will be moved through the public hearing process with Planning Commission and City Council seeing those, as opposed to in the overlay district, all the conditional uses were permitted and were only reviewed by the DDA's Design Review Committee and the DDA. So the staff finds that this code amendment is compatible with our comprehensive tract plan, since the tract will revert to the CBD zone, and that all improvements will comply with the applicable zoning regulations, subdivision codes, drainage criteria, engineering specifications, and building codes. And the Planning Commission did review this and recommend approval of this amendment. So with that, the applicant, Mr. Randolph, is here to answer any questions that you may have, and I too would be happy to answer any questions.
Sally, what do you see as the downside? Is there any downside at all here?
Not really. I mean, it's that the boundary of the overlay is now going to be its original boundary, and it wouldn't be, this area, this acre is no longer subject to the village style approach that was envisioned with the overlay district.
It still has a chance of changing as we move forward.
And we just can't predict of what's going to be developed at this time.
To follow up with that, if I could, please describe what design standards would apply to that area. What would the zoning be? What would apply?
Sure, the zoning is Central Business District, so all the dimensional standards like zero setbacks, height of 35 feet, and then the city's design standards that are in a different section of the code will apply, which we apply throughout the whole commercial area currently, and they deal with mass and various types of facades, and we have just our landscaping codes will apply, drainage codes, all of those are still in place.
Great, thank you.
What remains then in Woodland Station overlay? That's both DDA property and what else?
The only other private property is the Woodland Hardware lot.
In terms of signage, what are the big differences there?
The sign code for the Woodland overlay was amended a few years ago in 2014, and it is very similar to the city's overall sign code, except that it does not allow for backlit signs, so they have to be indirectly lit, and then they should apply the design standards within the overlay to create a more village-type feel, character that has a heritage to it, a more quaint approach.
And just to follow up to that, Sally, so recently did the hardware facility ask for an exception to that signage code and overlay, and did they receive it? Do you know?
The hardware store has submitted a sign package, which is currently under review by the design review committee.
Do you know what exceptions they're asking for? Are they asking that their sign be backlit, or is there something else that they're asking for?
No, they're not having a backlit sign.
Thank you.
I thought the signage for, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. I thought the signage for the hardware store was a quick, easy thing to do. I didn't know that this was still out there in planning.
The hardware store, I think, to give you some background on that, they had submitted sign proposals. It was approved many years ago, and they decided not to pursue their installation, and now they have come back recently with another application.
But remember, that process goes through the Downtown Development Authority, and we're really off topic here, but that.
Okay,
But it goes
I
through the
wanna follow.
DDA, and then we've already said that from the city's perspective, that what they've submitted meets our standards, our requirements.
Okay.
So right now, it's in the hands of the DDA for that review.
And that's who,
Yes, it
that's
is.
what I want to know. Thank you.
Ralph?
I've got a couple questions here. Is there any requirement to take this off of the overlay? I mean, I'm not sure about the motivation.
It's the request by the
Just a
property owner.
request, okay. Public benefit from staff point of view, or removing from the overlay?
Well, we are supporting the private property rights of the owner of the property to.
Sure, I guess I understand. I guess talking about city oversight. No, not oversight. Have they discussed, have they discussed development plans for this pond removal with planning at this point?
Well, we have not received any concepts for this.
Okay. I guess I should wait till they make their presentation. I can ask a couple more questions.
There won't be any more presentation unless you want there to be.
Oh, no? Okay. So the experience of the applicant in developing outside the overlay as opposed to inside the overlay is?
This applicant, Mr. Randolph, has developed a subdivision within the city. He's not done any commercial development, and they have not done any development within the overlay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We are on public comment. If anybody would like to come forward. If not, we'll call for a motion to approve ordinance number 1296.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer. Oh, excuse me. Motion carries unanimously 6-0.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Okay,
Thank
we'll move
you.
on with you, Suzanne, to item number 8B.
Thank you. Council, before you, I have put my staff report regarding ordinance number 1299, so it's an easier visual for you to see, and we can follow along with that. If you will recall, at the January 19th council meeting, the city council authorized the city clerk's office to bring an ordinance to them, allowing the public notices to be published in the Courier by title only, including a brief summary. At the February 2nd city council meeting, the council approved it on initial posting, asking for me to bring them an example of what the ordinances would look like. So what I've done is, if you look in your staff report and you turn to page 2, I picked just a general, easy ordinance to use as an example that you can see that we would typically publish in the Courier. This ordinance, published like this in full, would cost the city $75.77 to publish. And I do want to reiterate that this is just a small ordinance. Many times the ordinances are much larger than this. They include maps and so forth. If you turn the page then to page 4, I have put in here an example of what the city clerk's office is proposing we would like the ordinances to look like. With the recommendation of the council, we've included a small summary, and the difference in pricing is this ordinance, published this way, would be only $8.97. So the city clerk's office and staff are recommending that the city council approve this ordinance this evening. May I answer any questions?
Sounds like an easy one to me. Questions, council?
How often do we post ordinance like this? Really?
Well, every other week. Just to be correct, we do the agenda once a week, and then on the week we don't do the agenda, we do all our legals.
Wow.
Saving money.
It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Sawyer?
Sure. Where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. We were public hearing, but you can make a motion and we can go to public hearing. We're not gonna vote yet. Sure. Do we have anyone that wanna comment on how much money the city's gonna save? Good. No?
Motion to approve ordinance 1299.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes?
Matthews,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We move on to public comment on items not on the agenda since we have no new business tonight. And Gail Garrett, if you'd like to come forward and speak now, you can. The obvious time would be during the public session, which would be held in 2 weeks. Great.
Gail Garrett, 1180 Pine Ridge Road.
Just pull the microphone a little bit closer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I spoke with Mr. Wiley earlier today and just had 2 comments based on water and wastewater fund. And the first one was the second page, which he's correcting the original thing, mentioned that the wastewater capital fees had increased by 19%. And actually, I just think that some residents might be interested that in January, they actually increased 54%. I think everybody understands the need for the increase in fees, but I also thought that that amount should be accurate to the public. And then the other question I had was the CPIU. I would just be interested in knowing what the ranges of that 100% increase have been for both the water fund and the wastewater fund.
Please.
So the consumer price index ranges over the last 14 years. The average has been 2.07%. That's the full consumer price index. We have adjusted 75%, and our average over the last 14 years has been 1.57%.
That's the 75 over 2.07.
Basically, yes. And then also, council recalls back in May of last year, we had a work session on utility rates and the wastewater funding. In that work session, we had to go through the adjustment to acquire that loan. The 19% was to the overall wastewater bill, and the capital portion is where that was completely, that number was completely tied to pay for the expansion of capital funds. So in my staff report where I have 19% increase in capital fees, it's really in wastewater fees, but it was all applied to the capital fee. And so the average bill was around, for a 4,000 gallon customer, was around $25.99 a month, both operational and capital fees. That was increased to $13.06 with the increase that went into effect January 1st. Consumer price index adjustment that happens every April 1st is what was before you tonight. So.
No, I might have misunderstood. He says $25.99 and increased to $13.
$25.99 to $31.06.
Excuse me, thank you. Ms. Garrett, did that answer your questions? Yes. Okay, and just remember that if you want to come back with anything 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have public comment. Anyone else here like to say anything before we move on about anything? Okay, we move on to reports, and the mayor has a couple of events to report. Tuesday, February 21st, this coming Tuesday, 5:30 to 7, Chamber Business After Hours at Shining Mountain Golf Course. That's always very well attended and a great event. Wednesday, the 22nd, the day after, from 8 to 10, 5th Annual Teller County Economic Forecast at the UPass Cultural Center. And I'm sure Betty Clark Wine will be there, along with a number of others, and everyone is invited. That's always a very informational event, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce. Friday, February 24th, 7 to 9, Taste of the Grape at the UPass Cultural Center. Correct me, is that Kiwanis fundraiser? Yes. Okay. And Thursday, March 2nd, 2 weeks from today, from 11:30 to 1, Chamber Lunch and Learn at the UPass Cultural Center, Retirement by Design. 687-5284 if you'd like to have any questions or make reservations. And that's all I have tonight. Council?
Two quick reports, Mr. Mayor. First, the Historical Preservation Committee met last Monday, and I want to congratulate Lori Gloth as now our new chairman for the Historical Preservation Committee. But that was because we lost a great supporter of historical preservation, and that was Gary Crane. I guess Gary is going on to other things, but I'd like to publicly thank Gary for his support to this community over many years, but most specifically for the Historical Preservation Committee. I also attended the CML, the Colorado Municipal League Policy Committee meeting last Friday. The committee meets 3 times a year, and it's generally to discuss legislation that has a direct impact on municipalities. And the state legislature is in session right now, and we considered 34 different potential bills sponsored by both the House and the Senate that impact communities across the state. And just a couple that I'll highlight that either the committee and then in turn the league is either going to support or oppose in the current session. One of them, John, if you'd be interested in this, having been married in Colorado, I know that I only paid $1 for my marriage certificate. There's a House bill now to consider upping that fee to $5. Of the $5, $4 will go to affordable housing projects under CHAFA, and the league will support that legislation. I'm glad I already got married. A couple of others that came up. Immigration, under immigration, there was a House bill that was introduced, or has been introduced, that would hold elected officials liable for illegal aliens that violated the laws of the state or the federal laws, and would also punish those cities that chose to become sanctuary cities. Technically, I supported it, But on the other hand, there were so many issues with governmental immunity that the league chose not to support this particular piece of legislation. We'll see how far that one goes. Then there's another, I thought this was interesting. I've never heard of it before, although I have witnessed it. I didn't know it had a name, and it's called rolling coal. Those are diesel trucks that have been modified to belch out black smoke as they leave a stop sign or whatever. You may know about it, Jim. So I guess Fort Collins has a lot of problems with this particular issue, and they have a lot of patio restaurants that these trucks come through town and hit the gas, and then this big billowing, rolling coal smoke comes out. So the league has agreed to support legislation that would outlaw that, or at least develop some kind of penalty system for that. I guess there wasn't one before. What I did provide, to the council members is the new municipal league policy statement and the priorities for 2017. Again, the league is our lobbyist in the state legislature. Not only do they have lawyers that lobby on the Hill to support or oppose legislation that impacts cities, they will also sponsor legislation on behalf of any municipality that brings something forward. And a lot of times, and I'm going, well, we don't really care that much about fracking laws, but we could. But more importantly, if there's an issue that we want to bring forward as a home rule city, the league will sponsor that for the state legislature. That's my report.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple things. CIC, Community Investment Committee, met yesterday on a rehash of things we learned, and we're streamlining the process next year and the application, and we're going to advise people, make it a lot easier for people to understand the requirements, and we really got a lot of good input from everybody, and I think it'll be a real nice, a much easier process next time for the committee and those collecting applications and collecting questions on those applications, including some advice that we're going to freely give on the front end. Also, Parks and Rec has been busy. Cindy has all this wonderful report she puts out every month. It's readily available, and it's wonderfully concise and tells everything. The city has, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but they have a beautiful progress report on things that I guess, if you'd like to see from a visual standpoint, Cindy provided some things to us in our meeting that showed some visuals on how exactly the pool's going and other projects. It's a wonderful visual tool for people like me. It's really helpful. The Parks and Rec is publishing their various overlays for Memorial Park. They're in anticipation of when that gets turned over to the public. Cindy's already collecting reservations. All the fees are put in place for both Bergstrom, Memorial Park, and Meadowwood. They're all out there. What's this? As I said, all the applications are out there, so feel free to start scheduling your events and talking to Cindy about that, and hopefully we're getting closer to a turnover date.
Thank you, sir. Ken?
Just that the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful Committee is busy with our new chairperson, Pat Hisloff, and getting organized and redefining our goals for 2017, and it's a very active committee. A lot of people involved in our community, as always. And keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Paul?
I'd like to thank all the volunteers. Deeply appreciate that. I know it takes time and effort. I'd like to thank Tana for the Moose is Loose. Great program. I'd like to give warning to the tagger who's tagging out parks and defacing property. It's against the law to do it. We put a lot of work into what we do. Please stop. If you get caught tagging, it's not just a slap on the wrist. It's not. Stop what you're doing and respect the city and respect the community. End of story. thank everybody for coming and participating.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sawyer, Coach Sawyer?
I have nothing. I'm boring tonight. I'm sorry.
John?
Likewise.
Thank you, Counselor. Forgot something. It's too late. Too late.
Main Street EBC committee met today. We're progressing with various Main Street topics. I will have my first meeting as the ex officio, whatever that means, shortly. And anyway, so these committees under Main Street, despite the horribleness of not being chosen as one of the top 5, we're proceeding on anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on. City Attorney is not with us tonight, so David?
Jane? And then I've got some follow-ups after that.
Mayor, Council, Special Projects, Jane Mannon. Just a couple things that we have going on. Suzanne is going to hand out a copy of the 2017 work plan for Main Street. Just gives you an idea of what Main Street's working on, what the committees are doing. This is a document that will change as things change and as things are accomplished, but this is what we've started out the beginning of the year with. We are beginning a visioning process with Main Street for the Main Street area. This is something that the Department of Local Affairs has requested that we do and also paid for, so that's good. Surveys will be going out, I believe, tomorrow about your vision for downtown and the Main Street area. If you don't get an email or you don't hear about that survey, certainly let us know and we'll get those out to you. We want to have people fill out that survey. Then there will be meetings, public meetings on March 9th and 10th for the visioning process. Same meeting, 2 different days. March 9th is in the evening and the 10th is during the day. So again, just look for information, but that's part of the process to pull that whole thing together. I'm sad to announce that Carol Lindholm resigned from the city. Today was her last day. So we're kind of picking up and taking up some of the things that she was doing. In terms of marketing, we are planning for a small 2017 campaign in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce to do what we can with the budget that we have. In the past, Carol has gone through all of the various calendars and pulled together a calendar of information and events that she's going to promote throughout the year. Just with that reduced staff, what we're going to rely on is the community calendar through the Chamber of Commerce. Just want to remind everybody to get your information on that community calendar, and that's what we'll be relying on for promotions. And then Suzanne handed out an announcement for the wastewater plant expansion groundbreaking on March 2nd at 11 a.m. Unfortunately, I think I'm conflicting with the lunch and learn at the chamber, but come after the lunch and learn. The snow date for that is March 7th. We'll do a groundbreaking and then tours of the wastewater treatment plant and compost facility. Woohoo! Fun stuff. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. Just a quick update on the pool. And Councilman Carr is correct. There's lots of great visuals on Facebook. There's some great aerial shots. There's some 360 views that really show the community how things are progressing. There will be upcoming soon a detour on Baldwin, a very small detour between the construction entrance and Dwayne Carter's storage sheds as they begin to do some of the drainage work. It will be similar to what the community experienced at the north end of Panther Way at the beginning of school, jersey barriers for kids to walk safely up and down the sidewalk to get to and to school. So, but know that that's going to be coming fairly soon. The other thing too, I've heard from at least a couple of people that were concerned that the building was going to be the gray CMU block, and that would be the finished look. Per the picture that's there, it won't be. There's going to be hardy board siding with 5 colors to give it some real character. So rest assured, it's not a CMU block building on the exterior. It will have siding that will make it a very handsome facility. Lastly, we did save a little bit of money at the last owner, architect, contractor meeting. In cooperation with the school, we were able to remove the wheel stops that were in the parking lot just above the retaining wall. So it's a couple of $1,000 savings, and we continue to look for savings at every single meeting. And that completes staff's report unless you have questions of me.
No questions, it appears. I think that takes care of everybody, and I thank you all for coming, and this meeting's adjourned.
John, Bob, Dar, John, Val, if we can meet in the planning conference room, we'll see if we can get a